And welcome back. We're joined now by Bill Sussman and Amy Callahan from Collective Bias. And thank you both for coming in. Bill, I want to start with you. Many years with Walmart. You went from Walmart to Nickelodeon, where you ran that team, and now you're kind of jumping into a sort of a new area in terms of advertising and marketing, but also a relatively new business. So let's talk about that. What would make you change?
Yeah, well, I've been doing marketing my whole career, and I've always kind of followed the consumer and the decisions I've made about the companies that I go to work for. And joined Walmart because I knew I could drive the business with print and TV and do some great retail advertising. Left Walmart to go to Triad because of digital, and in the mid-2000s, it was all about reaching consumers through the web and banner ads. And this decade, it's all about social media. And excited to be at Collective Bias. We have a great team and a great group, and we're doing some really cool things. And I know I must have made the right decision, because a couple of weeks ago, I saw Jim Hayworth on the show talk about how he's driving his whole business by social media. So the guy who used to do everything by floor graphics and printed signage is now using social media to drive traffic. So I think we're going to
on Twitter. His bulls are on Twitter.
Yeah, exactly.
Amy, I want to go to you. Let's talk about what Collective Bias does, because is new and certainly not traditional by any stretch of the imagination. What are some of the projects that you're working on, and what is it you do?
Sure. It's not actually all that new. It's a different way to connect with your consumers. So consumers are changing the way that they're getting information and talking with different brands. So we're helping brands and retailers create content that's allowing a two-way conversation for the consumers to really get involved and have a say. Whereas traditionally, marketing was about what were those floor graphics and printed signs going to say and tell my consumer that I wanted them to do. Now the consumers are a part of the conversation. So Collective Bias is really helping create quality content for those brands to put out there. But the messages are coming from their customers, so they're listening to them and helping create a two-way dialogue.
So Bill, back to you. What impact have you seen in social media? I mean, you're a former print and media, television and graphics guy. What impact have you seen on the CPG companies and those products because of social media?
Yeah, it's changed the whole buying behavior. The whole way consumers consume media now has changed, and so much of the decision used to happen outside of the store. You'd watch advertising that would drive you in. You knew what you were going to buy. Now, so much of the decision happens in the store, and it's less about, as we talked about, it's less about floor graphics and signage, and it's about what's on their iPad or on their iPhone. They're standing in the aisle doing the research right then and there. They don't believe anything the manufacturer says anymore. They're gonna go figure it out for themselves, right? And how are they gonna do that? They're gonna use their network, their social network, because that's where they're spending their time. They're spending it on Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest, and they're gonna go connect with people and figure out who's used this thing before, what did they do with it, what kind of ideas did they have, and that's how they're making the buying decision. So it really has changed. It's changed the whole model, and that's why we get excited, because that's what we're doing for people. Our media and our content are one and the same. It's our great community of bloggers, and they're pushing the media out there through their blogs and their amazing followings that they have on those blogs. But they're also developing the creative. They're taking their own pictures. They're coming up with their own recipes. They're showing the way they're using products.
Yeah, how-to videos.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's
but do you find this to be more challenging? And I'll give you a point of reference here. Historically, I'm a radio television guy. That's put myself through school. That's what I've always done. And you always would buy 30-second or 60-second spots. There's really a lot of time, a lot of copy you can get in, a lot of visuals if you're in television, you can get in that. TJ Fultz was here last week, and we talked about some of the things that they did. Jim Hayworth was here a couple weeks ago. An interesting thing that both of them have said, first of all, Jim Hayworth pointed out that a tweet lasts 24 hours. That's the life of a tweet. After that, it's gone. TJ pointed out that in order to get to consumers, you really have to be pithy. And he was told, in some of his advertising, he has 7 seconds to get someone's attention. So has it become more of a challenge to say what you used to have 30 to 60 seconds to say? Now you've got to get it down to 10.
Well,
and I know you guys are a little bit, when you're blogging, you have obviously a little bit more time, but are you seeing some of those challenges?
And I agree, a tweet can last 24 hours, but with social content, if you create the right content at right quality, that content can be brought back to life. So whether it's a blog post or a pin on Pinterest, it pins one day, you share it on your social networks, but a week later, a year later, 2 years later, it can be brought back to life. So it never really dies. But if you look at your strategy in terms of I'm going to send a tweet and I can check that social box, well then yeah, your content is going to turn off after 24 hours.
Yeah, and I think attention spans are shorter. Consumers are busy. They have lots of things that they're trying to do. So you still only have a few seconds to grab their attention. But if you do grab their attention, then they're very committed to follow through and read or explore the rest of it. So if it's on a topic that they really care about and you've done a good job trying to capture their attention, they will stop what they're doing and they will sit down and they will read the rest of it. So they use that 7 seconds, or I've seen some data that says 3 seconds. It's a filter. Right, that's all it is. But if you make it through that filter, they're very engaged. That's the whole point of social media. People want to feel connected to something. They want to voice their opinions. They want to engage on that topic. They just don't want to be bothered with stuff that they don't care about. So they filter that stuff out really quickly. But the stuff they care about, they're there and they're committed to it.
That's the other reason of partnering with the right brand advocates. They each have their own niche. Whether it's, this blogger talks a lot about food or frugality or family or crafts or outdoor activities, their audience is the same way. So they're much more engaged and they're actually coming there to look for the content. So more likely to be, a lot more relevant than just following a random tweet stream.
Now, we've talked a lot on here before about how suppliers as well as retailers need to really understand their customer. Now, Jim and I talked about that several weeks ago as well. And you guys, I know we've discussed it, but you don't really do consumer research, but oftentimes because of who your bloggers are and the following that they have, you probably have pretty good insight into who those customers are. How many times or how often have you seen it happen where somebody comes in and says, okay, I want you to develop the strategy and here's who we want to target because we know from research this is our customer, and you guys come back and go, not so much?
Yeah, it definitely happens. I don't think I want to tell you the exact percentage, but I think that was part of the power of what Amy and the team built before I ever got there, right? They were smart enough to realize that it's about building a community and nourishing and taking care of that community. So now we have 2,000 plus bloggers who we engage with and we work with. That's an asset for a brand, right? A brand can come in and yep, we're going to run a program, and yes, they're going to blog about things and they're going to go to the store and do pursue a shop opportunity and buy your product. But while we're doing that, it also gives them the ability to test things with that group. And when we enter into relationships that last longer than a program, an annual partnership, that community is always available to that brand to be able to test things. So, and when we go out on pitches and we go, we know we're going to go talk to a company, we'll go do some of that research with our community before we ever show up there. So they'll tell us, to your example, oh, well, we're really going after a 30 to 45-year-old mom with a family, and we'll say, oh, well, that's a great target, and you should go after them too. However, we did some research also, and actually, it's really millennial moms. That's your audience, and here's how they're responding to your product. And it's not collective bias saying it; it's our community saying it.
It's your customers.
It's the customer saying it. So
it's not just demographics though either. It's packaging a product. Is a product bad? And they're going to give that kind of private feedback to the brand to help them fix it because they're passionate about that particular company. But yeah, it's not just sometimes the demographics getting wrong of who their target is. It's placement in the store as well. A lot of great information they can take back to their merchandisers. I mean, these customers are in your stores every day, so it's great to include them in the conversation.
Now, as a company, why would I want to? Am I better off to launch my own marketing plan and have my own tweets and my own Facebook account so that I can push a product, or is it better? What are the advantages either way?
You should do both. So you need your own marketing plan and strategy, just like anything else you did. Social is no different. But getting brand advocates involved in the conversation as well is equally as important. They're helping to create media so that you're having that dialogue we talked about before. But you as a company, collective bias is not going to start and run your social sites for you. That's not our job. Our job is to help create content to put on those social sites.
and drive traffic to them. So I think that that's the mistake a lot of marketers make. I know when I was a brand manager, the challenge is you have a limited budget and you want to get your message out there. So you want to create cool assets, and whether it's a website or a Facebook page, you want to get that message out there. But then you realize very quickly, wait a minute, if nobody sees that, if I can't drive traffic to that page and I haven't reserved a good portion of my budget to drive traffic to that page, it's kind of a wasted asset. So I think that's the message that I always tell to people. It's like, look, you should spend a lot of time and be concerned about what your brand image is and your identity, but you shouldn't spend a lot of time spending a lot of money against assets for that. You should know what that is and then use the mediums to drive the traffic. And I think sometimes companies are afraid of social media. Oh, what's going to get said? Or, how do I control that? I always like to just tell them, look, the conversation is happening with or without you. Yeah. You can be a part of it or not. It's up to you. I would always want to be a part of that conversation, good or bad, so I know what's happening and how I can respond to that and adapt to that. But not everyone takes that point of view. So that's what we push people to do: is don't be scared by it. It is controllable, it is manageable, but you got to get engaged and you got to start to do it. Otherwise, you won't realize that.
Right.
So, and besides just the social media aspect, what are some other changes that you've seen? I mean, you've had a long career, both of you have, in different forms of media. What are some of the biggest changes that you've seen besides social media? And to take that a step further, where do you see those changes going?
Well, for me, from a media perspective, it's about targeting, right? I mean, when I started my career, you bought broad cable TV and network channels, and you picked shows and all that. Nowadays, the amount that you can do that's specifically targeted, whether it's against a demographic or a geographic or a psychographic, just the way the customer thinks about things, you can find those customers, using things like social and digital, and none of that stuff existed before. So it's become a lot more complicated. If you're a marketer, it used to be, all right, I'm going to film a great 30-second spot, and that's going to work, and then I'm going to run it in all the right places, and business is going to come in. And now, that's not the way consumers consume media anymore. So you got to really figure out, where are they? How does your product fit in? How do you reach them? How do you target to that? And it's just become a lot more complicated. So I think, to Amy's point earlier, it's not do one versus the other. You pretty much have to do everything, but you have to be really smart about the way you prioritize and the way you allocate your budget so you can do everything.
Okay. Changes down the road? What do you see?
I still think we're all going to have to keep our eyes and ears peeled. Social changes so rapidly. I wish I could, say what's going to happen in 6 months or a year. I'd be rich if I knew, predict the future. But it just moves so fast. Within social and digital, the change in print, unfortunately. But I don't know. I'm glad that we have the community that we have. That's gonna, we've got thousands of ears out there that are helping to notify us when things do change. But I wish I could predict the future.
That's the best. I was going to build on that. That's the best part for us is, look, we don't have to be that smart in the building here in Bentonville. We have a community we are pretty smart, but we don't have to be. We have a community out there in the marketplace, who is engaging and trying new things, and they find it a lot of times before we find it, and they bring it to us and they say, have you seen this? That's the way, we determined pretty recently, pretty quickly that, moms aren't really on Facebook anymore. They're on Pinterest. Why? Because their kids are on Pinterest, and that's what our community started doing. So, I haven't seen a lot of data out there on that yet, from published sources, but boy, we know it because our community tells it to us every day, and so we rely on them. We talked earlier about how brands can use our community for market research. We use our community for market research all the time, and yeah.
Okay, final thing, what keeps you up at night, Bill?
Keeps up at night. I think it's about people, right? As the CEO of a company, you worry about how do you continue to provide, the culture, the environment, the career opportunities, for our great people. And we've had a great 4+ years so far. We're up to 85 people, literally around the world. We have 6 offices. Bentonville's our biggest, but it's about how do we keep that trend going, and how do we do the right thing for them, and if we do that, I know the business is going to come, the external business is going to come, and we're going to always be positioned the right way, and we're going to drive the numbers. So that's what I think about.
Amy?
So people as well, but also our community within the social space, and help bringing opportunities to them so our community can grow and have more opportunities to publish great quality content. So people is at the end of the day what we really, what keeps us up.
It's not about the device or the website or which social channel or anything like that. It really is. It's about how do we do the right thing for our people, and they'll lead us down the right path.
All right.